Hey everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. On today's episode, we are excited to be welcomed by singer, songwriter, and artist C.J. Solar. We had a great time talking about C.J.'s journey, which began at a young age when he started a band with his two brothers. Throughout high school, it was being in bands and playing solo and also songwriting, something that took him to Belmont University where he studied songwriting. Now, before he even graduated, he received a publishing deal as he signed with SeaGayle Music. And then in 2016, he received his first cut with Jared Neiman's Blue Bandana. In 2018, he scored his first #1 with Up Down from Morgan Wallen featuring Florida Georgia Line. Now, we had a great time talking to him about the journey and really walking the line between songwriter and artist as he celebrates the release of his own new album, The Future's Neon. So please enjoy our conversation with C.J. Solar. I wanted to know about your family because I think I saw that both your parents were doctors. Were they? Was that sort of the family structure?
Yeah, so both my parents were OBGYNs, baby delivering doctors. So yeah, that was pretty, I guess, interesting growing up around that. But they, so they had both played music. My dad had played a little guitar when he was a kid, and my mom played piano as a kid. But then obviously, they you know grew up and went to medical school and all that kind of stuff, became doctors. So they kind of set music to the side. But
Oh, okay.
my mom always kept a piano around, and my dad had his first electric guitar that he had gotten when he was a kid that was still kind of laying, like he kept in his room. So I remember seeing that guitar when I was about 7, and I kind of got drawn to the guitar, and I was just like, man, I don't know what it is. This seems cool. Like I kind of want to learn how to play this thing. So I started kind of beating around on it a little bit, and when I was, after a little while of just playing around, they found me somebody to take some lessons from.
Stan was your guitar teacher and you lost him in 2020. And it sounded like he was a pretty influential man along this journey. So I just wanted to ask about him and how he has influenced you, how he did before his passing last 2 years ago now.
I mean, just uh, everybody who knew Stan. He was just the most upbeat, always stoked to see everybody kind of person. But one of just like the best guitar players I've ever known, and seeing just the dude could play any genre, shred anything. I mean, just a great and a great teacher, and he really helped get me starting to play live because he played out all the time. So me and my little brothers played music together growing up. So he would have us come sit in with his bands, and it was really really cool. And when I got into high school, we started doing a duo together. So I would play acoustic and sing, and he would play like he had a piezoelectric kind of electric guitar, but that kind of sounded a little acousticy. That we would play gigs together, and I would play the songs, and he would rip the solos. But he was always like, "No, you solo that," So he's always pushing me to be better, and just an amazing teacher and friend, and super supportive of me moving to Nashville and chasing the dream, and and always trying to especially from a musical standpoint, trying to especially when I was first writing, because I was writing songs in high school, trying to push my songs to be more musically interesting, which was really cool. So yeah, just a great guy and a great friend. And 2020 was hard. He got dementia a little bit before that, so was tough losing him. And but yeah, so major influence on me.
Right. And within your guitar playing, you mentioned finding your dad's. Now, what was your first guitar like that was yours?
Oh man, my first electric guitar, I believe, was an Epiphone SG that I actually in middle school let a buddy borrow, and he never gave it back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I think that was the first electric guitar my parents bought me, and then after a few years, they got me a Paul Reed Smith, if you're familiar, and they're kind of Beautiful guitars. I still got it. I got all my guitars hanging in my closet back here.
Nice. Looks great.
Yeah, thanks, dude. So yeah, it's a fun place to store all of them. But yeah. So my first nice guitar was a Paul Reed Smith, which that's kind of more known for like, I don't know, Santana. Which my guitar Stan was a big Santana fan, and he was a big Paul Reed Smith guy. So he kind of turned me on to Paul Reed Smith. But and then a little while later, kind of really got into Gibson because Paul Reed Smith kind of sounds like Gibson's a little bit, and that kind of was like my my the sound that I liked, was kind of that a little that humbucker sound. So, but yeah, so I guess I don't know. Epiphone SG was really, I guess, my first guitar my parents got me. The electric guitar. I think I had a little baby acoustic guitar, kind of like some of these ones laying around. But yeah, so
And I saw at one point, it was later in your career, I believe, that you had traded in one to buy another one that you wanted. Now, I was talking to Scott Stevens the other day, and he mentioned that he had done that, but later on in life, he had regretted it because he wanted that one back. And so, have you ever done that, gotten rid of one, and then you're like, oh, why did I do that?
yeah, so actually, one of the ones over my shoulder. It's funny. I mean, I've done it a lot, but one of the ones over my shoulder. It's crazy. Yeah, this one down here at the bottom in the middle there.
Oh,
I
okay.
had one just like it when I was in college, and it's funny, these vintage guitar values really, just like everything else over the last couple of years, have just skyrocketed. And but even while I was in college, you could get those for like $2,500. It's a '59 Les Paul Jr. Gibson, and I sold it for like $4,500. And then I was like, oh well, I still want one of those. Now they're all $4,500. So I had the
Right.
opportunity to have one at $2,500, sold it for $4,500, ended up having to turn around and buy another one for $4,500. So yeah, it's you kind of just as early as you can got to snag those things because they're just going up. I mean, maybe with COVID, it seems like a lot of those um, prices of kind of those things are kind of simmering off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that they all went up. But yeah, I definitely have regretted selling some guitars, but I just kind of look at it as part of the journey. It's like, hey, you know what? You loved it. Obviously, there was a reason I sold it. And really, that one actually had a couple problems. So I was kind of glad that I ended up selling it and then getting one that I believe was a little bit better, just with some minor things. But you just, yeah, I try to what was it, live, laugh, love. I'm just kidding. you just kind of like, hey, if something slips away, it was meant to be. So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, I've been buying and selling guitars since I was really in high school. So I've just always been a kind of a guitar head. But yeah, it's a fun hobby, and kind of side thing to to making music is collecting guitars for me.
Right, absolutely. And now, before I dive too much into the music, I don't want to forget to ask about your grandma. I think it's your grandma on your mom's side. I've seen pictures on social media, big hair, big glasses, and it would really make my day if you told me she had a big personality to match.
Oh, dude, the biggest personality in the world, dude. So she's actually turning 90 here in a couple months, and she's still so with it, which is really a blessing to have a grandparent who's like still really mentally there and still around, and it's really cool. And she's a heavy Church of Christ lady, so she's never smoked or drank, or she's somewhat eats healthy, so she's always like, not smoking and drinking is the key to living more. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I think it's genetics, but you never know because there's plenty of old people that smoke and drink every day. But yeah, so she's great, and she has the biggest personality, and yeah, she's an amazing lady, and I love getting to go see her. So yeah.
That's awesome. And now you have two brothers and a sister, I believe, and you and your two brothers played music growing up, you mentioned, and you created a band. Now, within growing up, where did that love of music come from for the three of you, and just the skill to be able to do it at that young of an age?
Well, my parents just love the music that they grew up listening to, which I mean everybody does. But I feel like that was just some really amazing stuff, all that classic rock that, as the kids call it today, boomer music. But Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers, Creedence Clearwater Revival, especially the stuff that sang about Southern life kind of stuff. That was really always the things that I connected with most growing up in Baton Rouge. I mean, how Creedence Clearwater Revival, the song "Born on the Bayou" was like my anthem as a kid. I love that song, and a big Adam Sandler movie guy. So Waterboy, when "Born on the Bayou" was in that movie, it's just like that was just like I love that stuff, and my grandparents love that stuff too, and and my dad's parents, they were kind of more on like that. A little more. My grandma, especially on my dad's mom, was like a big outlaw country. She loved that kind of stuff. The Willie and Waylon and like Elvis. That was kind of like her stuff. So grew up kind of playing a little bit of that stuff, and then the classic rock, but especially the stuff that leaned in the kind of southern rock-ish direction was always kind of stuff I leaned towards.
Right. And how did you guys sort of fall into a band? Like, did you all just gravitate towards different instruments, or did you sit down one day and talk about it?
Well, it's funny is I started playing guitar first, and I think my little brothers got jealous that I was like that my parents liked the fact that I was playing music. So they were
Okay.
like, "Well, we want to play something too." And my parent and I think they were like, "Well, we want to play drums." So they both started playing drums. And then my parents were like, "Well, it'd be really cool if one of you would play bass." So one of the brothers was like, "Okay, well, I'll play bass." So because then they were like, "Well, this sucks. Like only one of us can really play drums at the same time." And my parents were like, "Well, you guys could all play together if one of you play bass." So Cody, one of the so my little brothers are twins. They're 2 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So they both were playing drums, and then the one that was a little bit. Cody was like a little bit more with it, really on both instruments, and they're like, "Yeah, you'd probably pick up bass easier." So he picked up bass as well, and so the three of us were playing, and it was fun. We a lot of times we'd go in, and they started taking lessons too. So we'd go in and take lessons, and they would both. We'd all learn the same song. It'd be like, "Oh, let's go learn Bad Moon Rising this week," or whatever, Korean song. And then we'd
Right.
come home and we'd practice them together. So we started practicing these songs together, and then we were like, "Hey, we've got like 2 hours worth of songs that we've learned and can kind of play." So there was a little seafood restaurant like a half mile from our house, and they started to let my parents, I guess, convinced them to let us come sit in the corner and play some songs sometimes. So it's kind of, I'm sure it was horrible. I feel bad for anybody who had to listen to us while they were just trying to enjoy a shrimp po' boy, but we had fun getting to go, and a little bit before that was when my Stan started getting us up to play with his band, but yeah, so we just started playing a little bit, and we did that for a couple of years. Almost every weekend we got to where we were playing most weekends all over the place, all over Baton Rouge and surrounding areas, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think my little brothers got a little burnt out on it because they were like, "Man, I kind of wish I could hang out with my friends on Saturday night instead of
Oh,
going and
okay.
playing 3 hours at a Mexican restaurant."
Right. Yeah.
So they kind of got a little burnt out on it, and I was loving it. I was like, "Hey, we're making money playing," because we were getting paid too. $100 or whatever a night or whatever. So I was like, by the time I got to high school, I was making a couple $100 every weekend, and not really having any expenses. So I was like, "Hey, I love playing this," and it's building the chops up for playing 3 hours gigs like every weekend. So and then me and Stan started doing the gigs together, and then I met some guys in high school, and we had a band. So I had a high school band. My little brother's playing with me every now and then. Me and Stan doing duos. So I had a bunch of different people I was playing music with, just um, playing all kinds of stuff. So
Right. Now, within that high school band phase, there's one event I want to talk about. So, the Battle of the Bands in high school, you're playing a show, and apparently, tell me if this is true, you were wearing your granny's leather jacket and your mom's leather pants. Is that
yeah,
right?
you did some digging, dog. Yeah, so my mom has these white leather pants, and I had my grandma's red leather jacket, and yeah, we played a bunch of rock stuff. Like I mean, like we played an Incubus song, and like we ended with Freebird and a bunch of other, like I think we played a Red Hot Chili Peppers song. So my high school buddies were like newer stuff. So we did a little classic rock and some newer rock stuff. And our senior year, when we did one, I think we did one junior and senior year. So we won our senior year, the Battle of the Bands or whatever. But yeah, so that was the year I wore the white leather pants. It's funny. One time when we were in college, some of the guys, my drummer Nick has been playing with me since college, and we were playing a little residency in at Pineapple Willie's in Panama City, Florida, and we pull into town and there's a billboard and it's like C.J. Solar Band at Pineapple Willie's, and they had a picture of me from that high school battle of the bands.
Really?
The red leather jacket and the white leather pants. And I was like, where did they get this picture? Like they had to like deep dive on Google or like my like high school MySpace page or something. I was like, where the hell did they get this? But it was so funny, like pulling into Panama City and seeing CJ Solar at Pineapple Willie's on a billboard, and I'm wearing that ridiculous outfit. So it was kind of funny.
That's hilarious. And so classic rock seemed to be a big thing, and newer rock, you talk about playing Incubus. So when did country music start to enter the picture for you?
So when I was in middle school, you probably read this because it's in like every interview, but so in middle school, my parents were like, hey, we've heard Nashville's a cool town, like let's go up and just be tourists in Nashville. So we came to town and we went to the Grand Ole Opry, and the night that we went, Blake Shelton, Brad Paisley, and Dierks Bentley were all playing that night. And I remember watching all those guys and going, man, this stuff's really cool. I really like this. Like I had always kind of written it off. I don't know. I just wasn't like big on like, I thought country music before that, like newer country music to me was like the Dixie Chicks and Garth Brooks. And I don't know. I just, as a, middle school kid, I wasn't really into that. But as I started, as I saw those guys play at the Grand Ole Opry, I was like, man, this stuff kind of rocks. And like, I was playing guitar. I was like, Brad shreds. I was like, man, this is really cool. So I started, researching country music more, in 7th, 8th grade. And, I started finding stuff like Montgomery Gentry and Gary Allan and stuff that rocked a little bit more and had a little bit more of just an edge to it. And Jason Aldean was coming out with like Hicktown around then. And a lot of these things were starting to hit. And I remember thinking, wow, this stuff's really good. So I kind of really dived a lot into that. So a lot of the stuff that I was playing at like my acoustic shows with Stan, I was doing a lot more country music at that time. And then the guys my age, we didn't gig that much. We did the battle of the bands and like a couple other like high school girls' birthday parties or something, where we'd play newer stuff because they didn't really want to hear country music. But
Right.
So I was playing country music and I started trying to write my own songs around that time, middle school and getting into high school. And I started finding out about there being a songwriting business in Nashville. And I started, looking up the names on the backs of CDs. And I kept seeing Jeffrey Steele. He was like, and Bob DiPiero. They were like two of my guys, like that I started seeing, I just started seeing names and I was like, and Jeffrey and Bob especially, but Jeff was one that was like really sticking out as like, man, everything this guy's on is just unbelievable. So I started becoming fans of certain writers and trying to kind of like write my own songs and figure out how to do it. But I kind of had that a little bit of that southern rock kind of rock background, as well as I started getting into country in middle school. So so I started writing my own songs and thinking about moving to Nashville.
You went off to Belmont. Now, did you study songwriting at Belmont?
Yeah, so I was a songwriting major with a music business minor at Belmont, which is kind of funny because they were like, yeah, it's pretty competitive, this music business program, but we got this new songwriting program that like, if you can show that you can write a song, you can basically get into it. So I was like, oh, sweet. Because I guess it was just so new. They were like trying to convince people to get, because it just wasn't, it wasn't an established program. I'm sure it's hard to get into now. But when I was applying it was like in the second year. So I was in like the second year of this program.
Oh, okay.
And, it was great. It was a really cool program. It was basically the music business program without the business part. I mean, not the business part, but like I didn't have to take, you didn't get a business degree. So it was a bachelor's of arts or science. I did science because I couldn't do foreign language because I didn't know any foreign language. So I was like, I'd rather take math than foreign language. At least math is mostly in English. But so I didn't have to take economics or accounting or any of that stuff. So, but we still did music publishing and copyright law and some of these more just really honed in on songwriter aspects of music business, which is really cool. And I actually got to intern through that and at a couple different places. And my last internship was at SeaGayle, which was a publishing company owned by Brad Paisley and Chris Dubois. And a couple weeks into that, I ended up showing the VP, Mike Owens. He was like, "Hey, we always listen to the interns tunes. If you got anything, want us to check them out, let me know." And I just had my first real demo session where I demoed some songs, and I brought in a CD and was like, "Hey, dude," like he walked by, like the next time I was interning, he was like, "Hey, dude, I was serious. If you got something," I was like, "I got it." And he was like, "Okay, pop into my office. We got, I got time for one or two songs." So I had 7 songs on this CD, and we sat down and I showed him all 7. And he was like, "Man, I'm not gonna lie. Normally the intern's music sucks, but this was actually pretty good. You mind if I show some of the other writers and Chris and some other people?" I was like, "Please, dude." So that was like a Thursday. I came in on I interned Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I showed him that stuff on a Thursday. Came in on Friday, and he was like, "Dude, people are liking the tunes." And a couple of the writers came up and were like, "Man, is that you singing on your demos?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Man, your voice is great. That's really cool." I was like, "Dang, this is cool." And they're like, "Yeah, Mike's gonna get us some dates set up." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I'd written with like one published writer up until that time.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, "Man, I'm about to start getting to write with some published writers. This is really cool." And then on Monday they called me and said, "Hey, can you come in a little early tomorrow before your internship? Before you're supposed to." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I showed up 30 minutes early, and they sat me down. They're like, "Hey, do you want a publishing deal?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Perfect."
Wow.
They were like, "We were looking for they were like, we were going to sign like a new male artist, a new female artist, and like a hit writer, this year." They're like, and we didn't know when we were going to find one, but you kind of just check all the boxes, and we love the songs that you've already showed us. So we'd love to get you in. I was like, thank God, this is amazing. So it was perfect timing. Such an unbelievable team that I had over there, especially early on. And, just did a really great job. I mean, connected me up with some of my heroes. Like within 6 months, they got me in the room with Bob DiPiero, and like he's become one of my favorite co-writers. And just a really, really great spot to be at. And when I was finishing up Belmont, we had as you were interning, you had like a coordinator that you had to go like check in with every month or two or whatever. And my guy was pretty busy like till the end of the year, so I had like an end of the year follow up with him. And he's like, "So how'd your internship go?" And I was like, "Well, they signed me." And he was like, "What?" And he was like, "So I guess it went good." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "You don't need to do any of that other stuff if you got signed. Like you won." And I was like, "Oh, sweet." He's like, "Obviously that went well if they signed you." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, hell yeah." He's like, "That was pretty cool." And and he was working over at Ocean Way Studios. It was the studio manager was like my guy, and he ended up letting me come and track some stuff on some of my EPs over there for like a discounted student rate after I'd already graduated, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that was cool.
That's awesome. So where sort of was your headspace at that point? Because I mean, that's the dream for everyone. Go to Nashville and get signed. So were you like on cloud 9 thinking I've made it already?
Yeah, I mean, big time. I mean, at least I was just like, because when you're just beating the streets writing songs, and that's it always seems like there's, especially at that point in my life, it was like, okay, there's steps here. It's like you move to town, you network, you somehow get attention from a publisher or a few publishers. One of them signed you. So that was that was a step, and then the next step was get a cut.
Yeah.
So that I had crossed that boundary of, okay, I made it to the dance. I at least had, now I got to get out on the floor. So that was kind of where my head was at. But it was like, it definitely happened. Not because I was necessarily, I mean, trying super duper hard. Obviously, I was just trying to, and I joke that like I've always just kind of like done my thing, and good things have, I've just been really lucky, really. But everyone's like, "Oh, well, talent and hard work." I'm like, yeah, I mean, I work hard. I mean, I try to write as much as possible, and just try to find talented people to work with or whatever. But I've never been like, okay, well, by this day I need to do this, and I'm not one of those kind of people. So I just got really lucky that they were looking, and I had met with a couple publishers before that, and they're always like, "Yeah, the songs are cool, but like just keep sending us stuff and we'll see." So
Right.
so I just got really lucky that I found a champion over there, and just a great company. And yeah, so I got in, And it was like, okay, well now we're off to the races. So I got in and started getting hooked up with all those writers, and SeaGayle had an unbelievable roster, and ended up making some of my best friends over there. Brent Anderson, who was writing over there, unbelievably talented guy who's wrote "Lonely Tonight" for Blake Shelton, but he's had a ton of other big album cuts and a couple other singles, and just probably pound for pound the most talented person. And Michael Hardy, the artist, we got hooked up within a couple weeks of both. So we both signed our deals at like the exact same time. He signed at another company, but when publishers are signing new writers, they always hook up all their brand new writers together because it's easy. They're like, all right, well, we it's hard to get you in the big rooms, but we can always hook the baby writers up together. So we got hooked up and just hit it off immediately and started writing pretty regularly. So I was kind of building a foundational crew. I had a couple buddies with Andy Wills that I mentioned, and a couple other guys, but just started building extending my network of younger people that I was writing well with, and actually right before I had signed that deal, a week before I signed my deal, I wrote a song called Blue Bandana with Andy and another guy, Ben Goldsmith, and everybody at the publishing company was like, it's kind of cool, but I don't know who would ever sing that. So as we're getting through my first year, I get to the point where I end up having a show, and everybody from the publishing company comes and sees me for the first time. And they were like, holy crap, dude, we didn't know you were that good, like live. They're like, damn, like that was great. And they were like, and I ended with Blue Bandana. I was like, that was the song I'm going to close with. And they were like, what the hell was that last song? They were like, that song's amazing. And I was like, well, nobody liked it when I first turned it in. They're like, you got to demo it. And I was like, joke's on you guys, I already did. So I within like a week, I had it sent to them. And that was, so they told me they because they didn't like it, they had picked, because it was my first session. So the first full session I did that summer, we picked out 5 songs to do together.
Right.
And usually you get into the studio and you got a 3-hour block of time with studio musicians, and you just record these songs as fast as possible. So we were just plowing through these 5 songs, and the guys went, hey man, it's your first session. You got 20 minutes left. You want to do one more song? And I was like, I got just the song. So we did that as the 6th song in the session, which I've never had happen again. So we get in, it's the 6th song, we do it, and I end up, so I get those demos back, and they start running with Blue Bandana. They love it. The demo came out great, and a bunch of different people held it, and it was like, it was getting on hold, and it was just, that was a really cool feeling. And I had some holds from that first session, but nothing got cut. The one that I did that got me the deal. So this was my 2nd session that they were really running with. And around Christmas that year, Jared, whoever else was holding it, took it off, and Jared Neiman had heard it and loved it. Jared was like, I gotta have this song. So Jared, like early 2015, records the song, and within a few, and so Sony had let go of their president at the time, and they were being ran by Sony New York, and there were like Blue Bandana and like 3 other songs, and it was, the other 3 songs were all written by like a combination of Dallas Davidson and Ashley Gorley. So okay. It was like my song and then 3 Dallas Davidson Ashley Gorley songs. So the New York president lady, who obviously probably didn't really know a whole lot about the country music songwriters, picked my song over their 3 songs, which of course made me feel great. I was like, I bet. So it ended up getting singled. So I was like, oh my God, my first cut is a single on country radio. This is like, this never happens. Like, first cut is a single. That, because they were like, dude, Chris Stapleton had like 150 cuts before he ever had a single. And I was like, they're like, this doesn't happen. Like, it takes normally years for this to happen. So Jared had already had the donkey thing. So, he had a big, when I first got over there, I Could Drink to That All Night, huge smash, Pitbull remix, everything was huge. That record was on fire. Then they singled Donkey. Obviously, it didn't do super great. So they were trying to come something fresh. So they came out with Blue Bandana. It was his fastest rising single up until that point. And then Sony hired their new president, and he came in and immediately pulled the song when it was like 30 on the charts.
Oh,
so
no.
It was just fast. So I had a single just shoot to 30, and then get pulled. And I was like, so I got that taste, I got a taste. And then it was just like the rug was ripped out from under me. And they're like, nah, dude, you didn't work that hard. You don't deserve this yet. Pulled it out from under me. So I got the first really exciting and then big crush. So I got a little crushed there. Obviously the experience was amazing, and it was a really cool thing to have happen, and helped open some doors for me, because it was like, oh, CJ just got a freaking single like a year into having a publishing deal. So that was really cool. And yeah, that was crazy. And then, that next year, 2015, I was just writing my face off and starting to play a little bit more shows. 2014, I barely played any shows.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was going to ask you about that, because you had the cut in 2015 with Jared, and then you released your EP the next year in 2016. So I was wondering that time frame, like where were your expectations of songwriter versus artist? Did you see yourself as one or the other, or were you balancing that line?
I was basically just at a point where I was like, I don't want to start putting out music that I love. So 2014, I just gave myself to write. And as 2015 started coming on, SeaGayle was like, man, your artist stuff's really cool. It'd be cool if you did, an EP, just to like start getting your name more out there as an artist. So I was like, okay, cool, let's do an EP. So somewhere in 2015, we were like, hey, let's pick 5 songs that I've written, and that I really like, and go in the studio and cut them and put something out. Yeah, so it was just like, hey, maybe let's start putting out a little bit of music, see what happens, while still pretty much writing full time. And then I started, trying to get on some shows, and I got hooked up with William Morris, the booking agent, and they started kind of throwing me on some openers. So I started being able to get to open for, I don't know, just anybody and everybody that I could. I think at that point I maybe got the biggest stuff was like some Hank Jr. openers, which was really cool, and some other things like that. Like I think I remember doing Old Dominion and Dustin Lynch and Michael Ray and a bunch of those guys, and that was, it was really awesome, like experience, getting my feet wet. Hardy was actually playing in my band at that time.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about sort of your journey with him, and you met him when you started writing, and then he played in your band for quite a few years.
Yeah, so the craziest was, so we were writing one day on a Wednesday was our day, and my bass player called me and he goes, hey dude, I know we're playing this weekend, but I can't make it. And I was like, dude, we leave on like Thursday or Friday. And he was like, I think we were going to leave Friday, and then we had like a random like 2 show thing on Saturday. Hard to explain, but anyway, so we had like 2 things on Saturday.
Right.
And I was like, oh dude, you're kind of screwing me here. And he's like, sorry, emergency, can't go. So I'm sitting there with Hardy, and I'm like, yeah, dude, like I gotta find a freaking bass player to learn my stuff. And he's like, well, how long are you playing? I was like, 45 minutes. Just, I think we were opening for like Chris Cagle or Michael Ray or somebody. And he was like, well, he goes, I could probably learn bass 45 minutes worth of your tunes. And I was like, and we'd written Tall Boy and a couple other songs together. And he's like, I know a couple of them already. So he's like, screw it, dude, I'll come play bass for you. So he comes on this trip, and we just have a blast, and just being friends already. It was just great. And my drummer Nick, so it's just like, man, I had two great friends. We were traveling, and I had a little van at that point, and it was like, let's do it. So so he was like, well, dude, if you want me to keep playing bass for you, I'd gladly do it. And I was like, all right, cool. So we did that for probably 2.5 years, doing that. So during that time we wrote, which I guess we can hop to some other stuff, but during that time we wrote Up, Down, and Some Girls together, and a ton of other songs that I ended up putting out. And
let's go from there. So in 2017, you had Up, Down with Morgan Wallen that went number 1, and then 2018, Some Girls with Jameson Rogers that went number 1. Now, as a songwriter, and especially, I mean, you had your first cut in 2015 with Jared, and then only 2 years later, you get your first number 1. So as a songwriter, what does that mean?
Well, so Up Down came out in 2017, but didn't go number 1 until 2018.
Oh, okay.
Some Girls came out in either 2017 or 2018. It didn't go number 1 until November 2020.
Right.
So the time, it takes so long for these songs to go number 1 because their lives are so long at radio. So 2018, that summer, was when Up Down came out. But so I remember Hardy at the end of 2017 was like, hey, I'm going to start doing my own career, which I was like, yeah, dude, you should have been this whole time. So he's like, all right, I'm stepping out. I'm going to be writing heavier. And he was starting to get to do some of those FGL songwriter bus weekends.
Right.
So he was starting to do that. And he was like, man, I don't want to juggle. He goes, I'm going to start focusing on my own stuff. So anyway, he steps out and he goes and does the Key West Songwriters Festival in 2017. Okay, so that was the end of 2016, I think, maybe, that he stepped out. So early 2017, he's playing the Songwriter Festival, and we had written Up Down, I think, the year previous, and he was like, so he's playing the Songwriter Festival, and Seth England, who manages FGL and Morgan at the time, is like, dude, I love that Up Down song. Like, can you send me the demo? So Hardy sends Seth the demo. I think it's in May every year. And then, like, it's funny. So Seth and Hardy are keeping in touch, and Hardy's feeding me the info, and he's like, hey, dude, at QS, Seth wanted a copy. And I was like, oh, cool. About a month later, June, he's like, hey, Morgan cut it. And I was like, oh, crazy. Text me in July, and he's like, hey, dude, FGL singing on it. That's pretty wild. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. And then in I think August, he texted me and goes, hey, dude, it's officially the single, comes out in November. I was like, whoa, okay. So then I got 3 months of just going, wow, okay, I got a single coming, but who knows? And he had the way I talked, but it had only gone to about 30. So it was like, hard to predict that he was going to be the biggest thing in country music.
Yeah.
So I remember Hardy texted me on my birthday and sent me the final cut of it, and was like, hey, dude, happy birthday. So I got to hear it on my birthday, which was super cool. And then in November it came out, and I actually got to open for Morgan in December at Stoney's in Vegas, which was pretty cool. And I got to see him play it live, which was dope. And then that next summer, and there were only like 50 people at that show. So it was a really small show. People didn't really know him, end of 2017. So 2018's coming around, and that song's just burning up. It's just, by summer, when the song goes number one, that song's just everywhere. It's an earworm. And it was really cool to be like, dang, got my first number one song. This is crazy, within, I guess about 4 years of having my publishing deal. I moved to town in 2010. So I was like, okay, 8 years in, got a number one. So that was really cool. And it was great, getting to share it. Brad Clausen's on the song too, but, getting to share it with Hardy, having, gone through all the stuff that we had, playing together on the road and all that stuff. So it was really cool to get to share that with him. And we knew the songs that we were writing were special. And and that was really cool. And then, so Hardy starts doing his artist thing, explodes. And Jameson was another buddy of ours, and we would have, we'd play the listening room and, the Bluebird, and we'd have songwriter nights on my deck in my backyard.
Oh, okay.
And we'd play Pass the Guitar Around. And I remember Some Girls was just a song me, Hardy, and Jake Mitchell had written that we were pretty hot on, and we were like, man, this is cool. We'd gotten held by a bunch of different other artists, but, never got cut. And Jameson was like, dudes, I love that song. If I ever cut an EP, like, I want to cut that song. And we were like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I think he put the song out in 2017. And then, Luke Combs kind of took him under his wing, took him out on the road for 2 years, ends up, he signs with Sony and Luke Combs' thing. And they stick with Some Girls the whole time. They're like, this is the single, this is the single. So I think in early 2019, they go to radio. So all 2019, they go to radio. 2020, things close down. They stick with the song, and they continue promoting the song all year. So this song got promoted for like over 18 months to radio.
Wow.
I think November of 2020. So which was really a silver lining of 2020 for me, which was like, obviously a terrible year for everybody. But I was like, the whole year, I was like, dang, I got a song on the friggin' charts. Like, I was like, even though the world's closed down, I was like, at least I know I got something cool kind of going on. And I, with my artist career, 2019 was a great year for me. I had an EP that was in the middle coming out. I got to play the Grand Ole Opry for the first time at the end of that year. I had a single with Jameson. I just had another number one. I had a Jason Aldean cut that came out at the end of that year. So I was really I had 2 Texas number ones that year, which was cool. One of them was my buddy Mike Ryan, which I'm a huge fan of Mike, and another with Kyle Park is a good friend too. But yeah, so it was just I had a lot of stuff really cooking, and COVID was just a obviously huge bummer because I mean Jameson was really lucky that they had already done so much radio visits in 2019 that he was already like at least established enough for radio to keep playing that song. Because I
Right.
knew I had a lot of friends too that were like in the middle of a radio tour early 2020, and if they didn't finish that radio tour before the world closed down, their song didn't get to go full send to radio. So
Right.
James got really lucky that he had already done all his radio tour and the song was still going, so they let it keep going. But radio stopped kind of taking new artist songs when they got to if they hadn't done a full radio tour by the time the world closed down.
Right.
So that really stopped for me just kind of because I had a lot of momentum going and I had a full EP and I was planning on putting that EP out like I don't know like April. So I ended up of 2020. So I ended up delaying it a little bit until that summer. And then I put that EP out and but unfortunately I really just didn't get to promote that EP very much. And it was just and TikTok was blowing up and I wasn't really on there. And I was just like, not in a great headspace. I kind of started doing the jujitsu, later 2020, and got a freaking dirt bike and a scooter, and was just like, I was writing maybe one song a week because we had to write on Zoom pretty much all 2020. It was like basically nothing but Zoom writes, and I really didn't love writing on Zoom. I got lucky a couple times where I wrote songs I really loved, but it was just a harder process because um, it just it's not very musical because you're basically only one person can really play guitar because of the lag, and I'm just such a going with the flow and really jamming with my co-writers kind of person. So that was a hard year for me. Just so towards the end of 2020 and 2021, I was like, all right, my deal with SeaGayle was coming up summer of 2021, and I was like, okay, well, I've got a handful of tunes that I've written before that, and SeaGayle had been the label for all of my 3 EPs before that, and they were for sale. So the company was for sale. There was a lot of stuff just kind of up in the air, and my deal was coming up, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna, most of my team that had signed me or been there, for the first half of my SeaGayle career was all gone. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to try to find a new publishing home. I'm going to spend my own money and go record an album of songs that I love that I either wrote before COVID, which I was really only 2 songs, and then a lot of others that I wrote on Zoom during COVID that I did like, and just hopped in the studio and was like, all right, I'm going to make a record and just see what happens. So, early 2021, I think I started this record. Maybe that summer, got the recordings done, and then have been in the process of starting to release that. I guess maybe late last year / early this year. I've been in the process of getting that record out. I guess it was earlier this year. So my 4th single from the record comes out this Friday, and then the whole record comes out 2 weeks from this Friday. And the record's called The Future's Neon, which my buddies Blake Griffith and Jim McCormick, who are both Louisiana guys, they split time between Nashville and Louisiana. We were writing on Zoom, and they were like, we were talking about it, and this is during COVID, everything's closed down, and we were like, man, what do you think, things going to be like? And Jim McCormick goes, dude, I think that as soon as the world opens back up, there's going to be just a lot of neon in country music, listeners, fans, world. I think people are going to really be hitting the concerts hard once things open back up. And we were like, man, that's kind of a cool title, The Future's Neon or whatever. So that kind of, I feel like, was kind of my thought process behind that record. It was like, man, once the world opens back up, I want to have a record to go, just kind of like great country music that really, is for fans getting back out, going to shows, and kind of celebrating that a little bit. So, but one of my favorite things about this record is that I feel like every song is so different. I feel like it's my most diverse record I've ever done, where I got stuff that like really rocks. I got stuff that sounds like 90s country. I got stuff that's a little more blues heavy. I've got, some Eagles You Feel and stuff. So I've got I feel like every song has a different vibe, but I still feel like it's all me. So I'm really excited for everybody to get, to get the whole album out. But The singles are really fun, and I'm trying to learn how to do TikTok and all that stuff to promote it. So it's been an experience, and other than Craig and my booking agent, I'm you know that's the extent of my team. So I'm
Right.
doing all the stuff myself, and obviously my band, and my roommate Tom, who does some video stuff and helps me out. But so it's an experience. Being an indie artist is a crazy experience, and fortunately the songwriting stuff has been a blessing, and really when I was moving to town, Sam Hunt, and even as far back as Luke Bryan, and before that, the path seemed to be write some hits for some other people, and then labels will take notice, and you'll get a record deal, and then they'll take you to radio. Eric
Right.
Patten. I mean, there's all kinds of people who have done it,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, with my timing, is the internet has just changed all of that to where now it's more should prove that you can become famous on the internet before, like, we really don't care about necessarily the talent. It's
Yeah.
like, just become famous on the internet and we'll take you to radio, not writing songs
Absolutely.
for other people. So obviously there is a little bit of that with Ray Fulcher and some other guys that are attached to really big artists. But it's a little bit less, hey, show us you're really talented by writing hits for other people. It's more about the online presence. So just the way the world is, it's always changing. So I'm working as hard as I can, getting some social media game, trying to get that on point.
Right. And so what does the future hold between pushing yourself as an artist and trying to get your music out there, and then having your publishing deal and doing as much writing as you can to continue to get cuts?
I'm just trying to find that right balance between, because up until COVID, I was a 5 day a week writer, and then hop in the van on Friday, or whatever. If I had shows that weekend, go play the shows that weekend, drive back Sunday, do it all again. I mean, that was my no days off kind of schedule. So now just trying to have a balance where maybe I don't burn myself out writing 5 days a week, maybe two or three, and then try to focus on getting some content. Because I had a radio guy listening to my tunes once, and he goes, "Dude, I've dived in on your EPs," and he goes, "This music is unbelievable." And he's like, "Are you writing 5 days a week?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Dude, you don't have a good music problem. You have a marketing problem." He's like,
Yeah.
"Your music's amazing. You just got to get it out there." And I was like, "Yeah, dude." So just trying to find that right balance between promoting myself and still creating new music, and while
Yeah.
trying to write for other people and write for myself. And I've kind of done a little bit of everything, but the songs that usually find life are ones where I'm like, I would record this myself. So just trying to write the music that I love, and whether I pour it out or somebody else puts it out, just trying to write stuff that I truly enjoy making and playing and listening to. I think most people want to make music that they like enjoy listening to themselves. It's kind of just like your process is like, yeah, I want to make the music that I like. So fortunately, I feel like I make music that is relatively commercial because I like commercial music, but just good country music with kind of a southern rock edge is kind of where I feel like my foot's at, and is kind of something that not everybody has. So just trying to balance all those things. But I'm definitely wanting to lean more into the artist stuff, just because I love playing, and I love playing my own songs, and writing the songs for the other people is very rewarding because you get songs out there. But I don't know, just I feel like those are boxes that I've almost checked a little bit. So I'm like, man,
Right.
that next
Yeah.
box is like, get a song on radio that I'm singing. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm already working on another record, and I feel like this next project's gonna rock a little extra heavy. So,
Nice.
because this one like has a couple some soft moments, and that next one I'm just like, I got a handful of tunes that I've been writing lately that are I got a new buddy that I'm really loving working with, named Caleb, who's just an absolute beast, and we're writing some stuff that's just so fun. Like, it's just super fun stuff. So I'm really excited to be working on that. But yeah, I mean, I love this record. Obviously, it's funny, by the time a record comes out, I've been sitting on it for like a year and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just takes a while for these things to come out. But always excited about the next thing. I'm always creating new music, and yeah, it's a blast.
Thank you so much once again for listening, and thank you to CJ for stopping by and sharing his story. Be sure to check out his new album, The Future's Neon, wherever you stream your music. Please also be sure to check out us wherever you stream your music. You can find us on any streaming platform, so just head over to your favorite, search Country Music Made Me, and give us a follow, and even maybe leave us a review if you enjoyed today's episode. You can also head to our website to sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive content like an acoustic performance from CJ. Just head over to countrymusicmademe.com and hit that subscribe button. Thank you once again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.